Have you ever felt like you have a laundry list of things to do, but you just don't feel like doing them? Instead, you find yourself wasting time doom scrolling and binge watching shows on Netflix. There might have been a time in your life when you have gotten motivated and decided to change your life. But this motivation only lasted for a couple of days, and before you know it, you were back to procrastinating things. My name is Jibreal Khan, and I was a serial procrastinator for most of my life. But after years of fighting against procrastination, reading hundreds of self-help books, and watching thousands of podcasts on the way the human mind works, I have developed a system that has allowed me to permanently overcome procrastination. I'm now the most disciplined, the most productive, and the most consistent version of myself. In this video, I'm going to share with you 2 principles that allowed me to make this transformation. And the best part is, these principles do not rely on motivation. So let's get right into them. Every single task that you do, things as small as brushing your teeth to things such as running a marathon, have something called a perceived energy requirement. This is basically the amount of effort that you think that a given activity is going to require. Procrastination occurs when the perceived energy requirement for an activity is higher than your current energy. That is why you don't even bother starting the task, because you know this thing is going to require lots of energy. Now, where most people go wrong is that they try to increase their current energy using motivation. So they start watching motivational videos, Instagram reels, listening to hype music, and they do get a lift in their current energy levels and start being productive. But this lift is temporary. It might last for a few days to as little as few minutes. Eventually, you will fall back to your default current energy levels and once again start procrastinating things. So this motivation-based approach has never worked for me in the long run. The true secret to overcoming procrastination is not to maximize your current energy levels using motivation, but to actually lower the perceived energy requirement for the task such that it falls below your current energy levels and becomes almost effortless to do. There are 2 tools to lower this perceived energy requirement for a task. Let's check them out. We as human beings are going to have days where we just don't feel like doing anything. On such days, instead of completely abandoning the task, I now follow the 30% rule. The 30% rule states that when a task seems too hard to perform, then lower its intensity to just 30%. So for example, if you had planned on doing a workout that is 60 minutes long, but now you just don't feel like going to the gym, instead of skipping the entire workout, just think about doing a 20-minute workout. This way you have instantly dropped down the perceived energy requirement for the workout, and now you're much more likely to get it done. But here's a big challenge. Before I started applying the 30% rule, I had this all or nothing mindset that, hey, either I'm going to read 20 pages of a book every single day, or I'm not going to read at all. And I used to take a lot of pride in having this mindset, like I'm a perfectionist. But now looking back, I was an idiot, because there were days on which I really did not feel like reading 20 pages, and on those days I wouldn't read at all. This would break my reading streak. Once this streak was broken, the momentum was lost, and I would end up not reading for months. But with the 30% rule, on the days when I wouldn't feel like reading, I would just read 5 pages. And this actually preserved my momentum, so the next day I would be back to reading 20 pages. The 30% rule is great, but it has one limitation. It can only be applied to tasks that are quantifiable. Like if you have a set number of pages of a book you have to read, or if you have a specific duration for a run, then the 30% rule works great. But there is still work which is not really quantifiable. For example, writing a thesis or an essay, or even creating this YouTube video. A lot of the work that you're going to do in life is going to fall into this non-quantifiable category. This is when the task breakdown rule comes into play. When you look at a task such as writing a report in its entirety, then the perceived energy requirement for this task is huge, and that can put you in a state of inaction. One of my clients, who was an international student, told me that she had exams coming up in a month and that she has been procrastinating for weeks. The reason was that each day when she woke up, she thought of this giant monumental task of studying for her exams. So this had an incredibly high perceived energy requirement that put her into a state of inaction. So what we did was, instead of viewing preparation of exams as one giant task, we broke it down into smaller tasks, into subjects. And then we proceeded to break it down into even smaller tasks of just studying 1 chapter a day. So now, instead of her waking up and thinking about the monumental task of exams, she just now needs to get 1 chapter done in a day. This greatly reduced the perceived energy requirement, and this is what got her out of this state of inaction. And to be honest with you, this process of looking at a task as a collection of subtasks rather than as a whole is possible for literally anything. something. Like a YouTube video can be broken down into things like creating a script, making a thumbnail, editing, recording. Instead of thinking of a report as a whole item, think of it as a collection of chapters, and think of chapters as a collection of paragraphs. So the moral of the story is to keep breaking down the tasks into smaller and smaller subtasks until you find a subtask that is doable at your current energy levels. Look, the task breakdown rule and the 30% rule are great to lower the perceived energy requirement, but there are limits to this. If your current energy levels are just way too low because you do not have a sleep schedule, you eat fast food, you're addicted to doom scrolling, pornography, then you're not going to be able to do the work even with these rules. Think of the 30% rule and the task breakdown rule as powerful supplements, but even more important than them is your foundation for sleep, diet, and a routine. If you nail these things, then your current energy levels are going to be through the roof, and most things are going to seem easy naturally without having to use any of these mental frameworks. If you would like to work with me in setting up these anti-procrastination systems in your life and finally start accomplishing your goals, then make sure that you click on the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me.